Testing, testing, one, two, three. Thank you for joining me for this bonus episode of the Backlit Cinema podcast. My name is ZO or ZO if you're outside of the US, and I'm here to give you my impressions on the movie that me and Zach had just watched. I'm going to be honest, I was worried about this movie because I had been keeping my eye on the critical reviews, not actually reading the article, but just seeing the headlines of the article. And you can tell when they write these headlines that the reviews were not favorable. They were really casting doubt on whether I would enjoy this movie or not. And that movie that came out that I want to give you my impressions on is Uncharted with Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. So this is one of those infamous video game movies, and video game movies have the reputation of being very, very bad. It's either a poor translation of the video game or just a poor story in general, just generally a bad story, because it seems like writers and directors, they really don't know how to tell a good story that's based on video games, and I don't understand why. It doesn't make any sense why you can't craft a narrative with some basic elements, and it's extremely frustrating for me, being huge fans of video games in general and Uncharted in particular. Many of the games that I love have been translated into movies, and most of those have not come out well, famously. So I want to talk a little bit about this in this short bonus episode. So I just want to go over the actors and their parts. So I mentioned Tom Holland, who plays the titular character. Well, he's not titular because his name is not on the box, but he is the main character that you play when you play the game. And so Tom Holland plays Nathan Drake, and Mark Wahlberg plays Victor Sullivan, which is your sometime sidekick in video game. Antonio Banderas plays Santiago Moncada. Sophia Ali plays Chloe Fraser. Tati Gabrielle plays Braddock. And those are it for the main characters. I mean, there are some others. There's Tierney Jones, who plays the young version of Jake, and Rudy Pankoff, who plays the young version of Sam, which is Drake's missing brother. So this movie was directed by Ruben Fleischer, and you had a screenplay by Rafe Judkins and Art Markham and Matt Holloway. So those are kind of the basics of the movie. And like I said, I just want to give you my spoiler-free impressions. Basically, I want to figure out if it's worth going out and risking getting COVID or something like that to go and watch this movie in movie theaters, or should you wait and just wait for it to stream at home? And before I give you that, I just wanted to say that looking at the critical reviews and having watched the movie myself, and basically I come to the conclusion that you cannot always trust the critical reviews. The critical reviews on Rotten Tomatoes has it at like 39%, and I cannot understand why. It doesn't make any sense why the critics would rate it as 39%. It's baffling. It's mind-bending. I know that sometimes this happens. Sometimes there's a mismatch of what the critics thinks and what the audience experiences, and can't always trust the critics. Sometimes they're just wrong, and it's like they're wrong for no reason, and it makes me feel like they're angry. It makes me feel like they're lying about their actual opinion or something. I don't know. They have an agenda that they're trying to fulfill, and they give these weird ratings on, like, they'll give a very high rating for a movie that the audience hates, or vice versa, and vice versa is what happens in this case of Uncharted. Because, like, one of the things I did is I bought the tickets online, and I explained this in a different episode regular episode 60, where I talk with the co-host of the podcast Jurassic Pod with Luke Ferris, and me and Luke had a conversation about this, about how, I went and bought my ticket online. I used an app called Adam, and Adam actually has audience reviews to help people decide on what movies they want to buy. And it had very high audience reviews. Like, it had, for the people who decided to put their review on the app, it was at a 5. I'm sorry, it was a 4.5 out of 5. And I was like, wow, this is really high. This is a weird mismatch. This can't be right. It can't be that good. I mean, I figured that with the critics score so low, I figured that the audience score would be 50 or 60 at best. Like it would be like 3.5 or something like that. But it wasn't. It was a 4.5 out of 5. Like, this is incredible. And I don't think the Rotten Tomato scores were ready yet. So I was like, well, let me go and check this out. This is encouraging. So me and Zach, we went and watched the movie, and we both had a blast. Now, I'm going to say this. This was the best movie that I have seen since Spider-Man No Way Home. This is to say that I'm not saying that this movie is as good as Spider-Man No Way Home, but it is the best movie that I have seen since then. And every movie that we've watched in the movie theater, I have posted a bonus episode on, and those movies were all right, and some of them were outright. Well, one of them in particular was outright bad. It was like just a really bad movie. It was a huge disappointment, even though I had low expectations for that movie anyway. And for Uncharted, I had low expectations because of the critic score and because of the reputation of video game movies. But this movie was incredible. It was incredible for the fact that somebody was finally able to take a video game, craft a nice narrative around it. It was shot beautifully. The acting was great. There was personality. You know, the characters were fully fledged out characters, you know, with personalities and story arcs and so on and so forth. Like everything that you want in a good story, you have on Uncharted. So that's my impressions. Yeah, go out and see this movie. Go out and see this movie. This movie is a great time. And that is all I want from my movies. I just want to go to the movies. The reason I get all dressed up and take the time to drive to the movie theater, buy these expensive tickets, and Zach likes to eat that expensive popcorn and break his mask and risk getting sick. We do all of that because we want to be entertained. We want to have a good time. And that's what Uncharted has given us. It gives you a good time, and it is worth going out to see it. You don't have to wait until it comes on streaming services. You don't want to do that. You want to see it. You want to see it in the community. You want to see it with the audience. And it's a great movie. So everything that you like about action movies and with, you know, comic relief, it's all in this movie. Now, I will say there's a lot of double crossing, and for some people that might not make sense. But when you're dealing with an action movie, you're going to expect that type of thing that's going to go on. But then those are my impressions. My impressions is that sometimes, well, I should say my impressions are that sometimes critics are wrong, and sometimes they can be very wrong, and sometimes you cannot trust them. Sometimes you really have to look at the word of mouth and the audience scores to figure out whether a movie is good or not. And I, for one, had a great time watching this movie. Now, will people come later on with the YouTube videos and the podcast, and will they pick it apart? Will they point out the plot holes? Will they find a bunch of stuff that don't make sense? Yes, absolutely, because this is the type of movie that should be filled with plot holes. But the great thing about this movie is that while you're watching it, you're having such a great time that you don't really pick out the plot holes. You don't really find the plot holes right away. Or if you do, they don't really bother you because you're having such a good time. So, yes, you can see this movie, and you have my assurance that if you like action movies and you like adventure movies, something in the vein of like Indiana Jones or Star Wars or, you know, something of that flavor, then rest assured you will have a good time watching this movie. At least I know I did. So those are my impressions, and I hope you have a great day. So go ahead, see this movie with one of your loved ones, and treat each other well and be outstanding.